You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right then, on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. Don't forget, if you guys are listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also find more of our content on our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like Cinematic Adventures and MF Uncensored. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Paul. With me via the Zoom studio is Ronnie. Ronnie, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I can't complain. How about you?
Well, I'm just happy that, you made some time for me and, remember that we have podcasts and, Sean's been pretty consistent. We've just been hanging out a lot.
We're doing a podcast right now?
You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth right now, sir. I am over you and your gumption. But anyway, you can't. Anyway. So today we're coming back, and unfortunately this is a little bit of the dry season of superhero media. Yes, we have not seen the Marvels yet. Please leave us alone about it. We will go see the Marvels at some point. There will be a review about the Marvels at some point. Probably when it comes on to Disney Plus, because it is bombing. It is not doing exceptionally well. And a lot of people there's a lot of speculation as to why. And until I see it, I don't want to pass judgment. I know, we did our pre-Marvels episode, and eventually we will see the Marvels. It will happen at some point, but I'm not really I want to see it, but I'm also not I need to see it.
Yeah, same.
And unfortunately, at the same time, Jonathan Majors just started his criminal proceedings. So we'll see. The future of Marvel's a little uncertain, and who would have thought that we would have had to say that at some point?
Yeah, right? It's always been about DC and their future, and
their future's still messed up.
Yeah.
As of time of recording, yesterday they announced that Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, will be portraying Max Lord in the new DCU. Even though he's playing 4 other characters, and James Gunn had originally said nobody's going to play more than one character, but nepotism runs deep with James Gunn, just like how his wife is in all these movies, and probably still going to keep being Hardcourt. And we like Hardcourt. We definitely enjoyed her in Peacemaker, which, can we get a season 2? I'm getting a little annoyed. Yeah. So, I don't know. And then the only other superhero movie we have left is Aquaman.
Yeah, Aquaman.
I am... Yeah, I've barely seen any promotion for it.
Yeah, which is okay because there's a lot of drama going on with that movie too, just like every other DC movie to come out in the past year and a half.
Just a year and a half. Just a year and a half.
All right, maybe a little bit more.
Well, it's funny because they just dropped a bunch of DC movies onto Netflix, like Suicide Squad and the Batman. I was watching the Batman again. It's a great movie. It's so good. Yeah. What happened elsewhere? Why can they only figure out Batman mostly?
I wonder if it has to do with the fact that we're getting B-list characters, and it's harder. Well, Batman is A-list. Put it this way: Flash and Aquaman just started becoming A-list. Batman's always been an A-list.
I mean, I feel like Aquaman's always been a joke. Flash has always been pretty A-list, but I guess I kind of see your point just because I don't want to talk about it anymore. But anyway, no. But it's funny because they just recently, I think it was this week, they mentioned that the Flash had ended its run a year ago or something like that, and just it made me so sad. It was such a missed opportunity that they did not put Grant Gustin in the Flash movie at all. I think it would have saved a lot of the movie.
100%.
If Grant Gustin's Barry Allen had popped out of the timeline when all the during the finale and tried to convince Ezra Miller's Barry to stop what he's doing, I think that would have been a great moment.
Oh yeah, I think that's the problem with DC sometimes is they don't do the fan service like Marvel does.
Well, so it's weird because they did the fan service in Titans when Beast Boy was in the red, and you see Grant Gustin's Flash going around, Zachary Levi's Shazam, they have the footage. I don't know what they were thinking, and I know we talked about it when we did our Flash review. I don't know what they were thinking when they were like, we're going to CG Christopher Reeve and Nicolas Cage and all that. Like, why? You have all these actors who would put on that suit in a heartbeat to do those cameos. And then it just looks so janky. Oh, God. We could talk for days about how bad The Flash was, but it still makes me sad. But we are not here to talk about The Flash because I'll just get upset. We're instead going to talk about something way, 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 way more fun and arguably sometimes the better medium. Like, as much as we love live action, there's something to be said about today's topic. And today we're doing a very broad, we're going to do some specific episodes. We'll announce that at the end. But we are going to be talking about some of the greatest superhero animated TV shows. And the fun thing about this is we're able to go back in time, and we're going to go not every single superhero TV show. We'd be here for days. We're going to talk about the best of the best, our personal favorites, a little bit of debate, a little bit of kind of seeing, because we don't know where each other stand on this. I think for the most part we'll be on the same page, but it might be interesting to see.
I feel like we have like the same bests. But it's just a matter of like what I think is the best versus what you think is the best one. That's where it's gonna be different. But I'm sure, like, if we said top 5, they'd pretty much be very similar.
I'd actually be very curious because I know there are plenty that I have seen that you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to stop being an adult for like a day and just watch cartoons like a real adult. I'm not going to work.
I'll do my best.
I'm not going to go to work. I'm just going to watch cartoons today. I dare you to tell your wife that when she's like taking care of your newborn child. Like, I'm just going to stay home and watch cartoons. You just do whatever.
You do you, and I'll do me.
R.I.P. Ronnie. But anyway, so let's start. We're not going to go too far back. Like, we're not talking Super Friends and stuff like that. We're going to look at different
time. About like 90s.
So we're going to look at different time periods, and we're going to talk about our favorite ones during those time periods. So let's start in arguably the golden age of superhero animated shows, and that is
2020.
Shut your whore mouth. You shut up. How dare you? I couldn't even tell you a modern superhero cartoon, like what's on right now.
Really?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the superhero cartoons right now are specifically geared towards little kids. And
I would argue that.
I'm going to argue you in a second. And what I was going to say is the best shows are the ones that deal with more adult themes. They treat, like, the first 3 shows that we're going to talk about were made, quote unquote, for kids, but they had a lot of adult themes. So a lot of these superhero cartoons they were aimed towards teenagers who would grow up with the show. That was their demographic.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, toys were involved. So some of these shows were primarily made for toys, which is wild. So let's start in the 90s. There are 3 shows that we are going to mention. Ronnie, can you guess one of them?
To me, probably the greatest animated series ever, Batman.
Batman.
The animated series.
Yes, Batman, the animated series. I will say, I think it's easy to say that it is probably the best superhero animated show. There are some great ones, but Batman, the animated series, and even to a point, the new Batman Adventures, which was like the sequel series, or it's weird. So Batman, the animated series is broken up into 2 pieces. The original one with Kevin Conroy and sparingly Robin, like it was mostly a Batman show. And then they made this change where first the artistic style was very different. Like they redesigned all the characters. They also introduced Tim Drake, and they bypassed Jason Todd completely. They kind of combined the 2 characters because I think they just didn't want to deal with the killing of a child episode. Anyway.
Makes sense.
Yeah, weird, right? And Barbara Gordon took a much more prominent role as Batgirl. It was more the Bat family adventures. And of course, Dick Grayson as Nightwing. And we know it's a continuation because they do a flashback to when Robin stopped being Nightwing. And all the entire voice cast comes back for the most part. Do you have an episode of Batman the Animated Series that sticks out in your mind?
You're asking for way too much. To be honest with you.
Do you want me to do one before so you can
go for it?
All right. I like Old Wounds, which is a fantastic episode where they explain, because I was always a big Robin fan. Like I related to Robin as a child. You know, that's what he was designed for. We did a great episode on sidekicks and Dick Grayson in particular. And that's what he was marketed for children, to be like Batman's partner. Like that's something a kid can relate to. But Old Wounds is top. Heart of Ice is considered probably the best of the series. The first episode with Mr. Freeze. I forget the name of the episode, but there was a great one where I think it's like Legends of the Dark Knight, where they do 3 different iterations. Like it's kids telling Batman stories. And one of them is like a cheesy 1960s, like pow, zap, wham. And then they do The Dark Knight Returns as one of the segments, and it's really good. But those are 3 episodes that jump. Also, I forget the name of it, but there's an episode where Barbara Gordon dies, and Batman gets discovered to be Bruce Wayne by Commissioner Gordon. And then at the end, spoiler alert, at the end you find out that it was all Scarecrow's fear toxin, and it was a hallucination, but it's really good. But what about you? Anything jumping to mind?
Probably, I think I want to say towards the end of season 1, the Two-Face episode.
Oh, it's a 2-parter too, ironically enough.
Yeah. I think that one kind of stands out, where we kind of see the true side of Two-Face, because I think Two-Face is probably one of the most underused and underrated Batman villains,
especially when Misha Collins plays him.
Yeah.
My only complaint about Two-Face in the animated shows especially is how perfectly symmetrical his face is. Like, he gets half of his body blown off, but it's like, nah, he had a line right there.
Perfect. Yeah.
But they do a much better job than some of the other iterations about his split personalities, how there's more than one, the big bad Harv personality. And then they do an episode in the new Batman Adventures with a new personality called the Judge, where he takes on like a vigilante role. They always handled their villains especially well. And of course, Mark Hamill's the Joker, Kevin Conroy's Batman, just you can't beat it. So, moving on though. This is a show that I watched as a kid. I loved as a kid. We're going to do an episode with it involved. And again, we're going to say that at the end. But X-Men, the animated series, another more adult show. It dealt with a lot of adult themes. It dealt with bigotry, racism, hating the way that you are, and death and dying. Like, the first episode, they killed Morph, I think. Or it's like an episode or 2 in. But it's one of those shows that whenever I watched it, I don't know if I ever watched it in order. It was very strange the way that they aired it. And I remember a lot of episodes, but I don't remember the whole show.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan, like, as a kid, because obviously, like, it had one of the best theme songs of all time. Like, it's still, they used it in Multiverse of Madness when Professor X wheels in. And obviously now they're really leaning into that nostalgia for the MCU, which is a whole other thing. But
yeah.
And then the last one, and again, we're not spending too much time on these last 2 because I'll explain why, is Spider-Man, the animated series. And it's probably, of those 3, it's my favorite. I'm not going to say it's the best, but it's my favorite personally. But next week, we are actually going to do a versus episode of X-Men, the animated series versus Spider-Man, the animated series, where we're going to break down both shows a little bit better because they also share a continuity.
Yeah.
They do crossovers, and Spider-Man's never been on that show, I don't think, except in like maybe a non-speaking cameo, I want to say. But they had the entire X-Men cast in one episode, and Storm came back for another episode, which, again, so we thought it might be fun to kind of compare the 2.
Yeah.
Now, moving on. Obviously, after the 90s came the 2000s, for those of you guys who aren't good at math.
Wait, what?
After the number 90 comes 2000. It goes 88, 89, 90, 2000, just so you know.
Oh, okay. I get it now.
It's Common Core math. It's really high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Girl math. It's girl math. But anyway. So, that's a big thing nowadays, the girl math. I've seen, like, guy math. Yeah. I've seen, like, some weird ones. Lawyer math, like, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
God, I love our country. So, we're jumping into the 2000s, and this is really when it was the DCAU versus Marvel. Now, we've done episodes where we talk about DC and Marvel and versus them and kind of where they stand and stuff like that. But this is the first time that DC was really, they had their cinematic universe. It was done.
Yeah.
They somehow managed to do Justice League totally better. And I remember you watch the first episode of Justice League, the only characters people were familiar with were Batman and Superman. They had their own shows. Yeah. You know, it was the Batman from all that, and then Superman had his own show. And then they introduced all these new characters in the first episode. And somehow it worked totally fine animated. But when you went to the movie, people were like, oh, you need at least one movie per character. Like, oh, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't. But again, you also have more time to tell stories afterwards. So it's give and take. But obviously, Justice League was probably the biggest animated show at the time. Did you watch Justice League and Justice League Unlimited?
So I didn't watch too, like, I would watch episodes here and there, but never fully watched like full seasons of either show.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I didn't like it, because Justice League, in my opinion, is better than Justice League Unlimited.
Ooh, hot take.
Not by much, but I would say it's a little bit better in my opinion. But it's just, I didn't really watch too much of the animated stuff in like the 2000s and to now, basically. So
Ronnie was too busy cutting class and smoking behind the bleachers. I don't know what he was doing. We didn't go to high school together.
How do you know that? No,
because you tell me everything. Anyway,
that is true.
But anywho, I would say Justice League the Animated Show and Justice League Unlimited they're just so perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. It's one of those shows that you can throw on any episode and enjoy it. And even they did an episode with like all the C-list characters, and they make jokes about it. Like they're in a parade or something. I forget. It's in Justice League Unlimited, and like all the kids are like, "Oh, I was waiting for Batman." Like and they're like, "Damn it." But then at the end, they like get everybody's respect, and everybody's like, "I'm vigilante." I'm like, it's really good. And also, during this time in the 2000s, we have one of my favorite shows, Batman Beyond, all in the same continuity too. Yeah. And we did an episode on Batman Beyond with our good friend Brendan, or Blind Bat 8719 as he's known. But so make sure you guys check that out. We had a lot of fun talking Batman Beyond. They also did the ending to Batman Beyond in Justice League Unlimited. They did the episode epilogue, and it is probably one of the best Batman stories of all time, because they cut back and forth between the quote-unquote present time and what happens to Terry McGinnis. Terry McGinnis was so popular, they wanted to do a movie, like a live action, and you know who was supposed to play Terry McGinnis, right?
No.
Ben Affleck. That's really funny, right? Like, that was a big thing, and like it was pretty close to development. So during that time, though, we also had one of my favorite shows, X-Men Evolution.
I thought you were going to say Teen Titans.
No, Teen Titans was mid-2000s. It was a little bit after, I think.
Yeah.
But we have X-Men Evolution and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So they had two other superhero shows kind of jumping in at the same time. And we're going to talk a little bit about X-Men Evolution in a second. So we're actually, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but we're also going to do a follow-up to our next episode where we're going to compare the next two shows, X-Men Evolution and Spectacular Spider-Man, because ironically enough, they follow a very similar motif. And I was a huge fan of X-Men Evolution. They did a fantastic job with it. A lot of these shows were very famous for being very small to start off, and then suddenly it's like, look at all these characters. Like, and sometimes it really worked. X-Men Evolution, it really worked. And they also made Cyclops much more badass. Like, he has a moment where he floors Juggernaut, and it is probably one of the best Cyclops moments of all time, because the movies did him dirty.
I was going to say, like, it's crazy, like, how well the animated... I feel like when it comes to Marvel, I feel like the Marvel animated series sometimes do better with their low A, like the A- / like B characters than they do in the movie.
No, that's totally fair.
Know, like with like Cyclops, with Storm, like all these people, like, from X-Men, they're so much better in the anime than they were in live action movies.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's very weird, like, where the problem was Wolverine got so exceptionally popular from the first X-Men movie. And so they diverted all their focus to him. And yes, like, X2 is fantastic, but they didn't know what to do with all these other characters. So some of them were gone for most of the movie. Cyclops is gone for almost the whole movie.
Yeah.
And they just didn't know what how to make him interesting, and it really sucks because I'm a big fan. But some of our other shows that we have at this time, Young Justice. Young Justice is such a unique beast when it comes to animated shows, because they also had like Green Lantern had an animated show, but Young Justice and Green Lantern would air like next to each other. Suddenly, Young Justice was just gone, like disappeared.
Yeah,
nobody knew why. Young Justice was probably one of the best shows. It was written for older people. It was written for like young adults to adults. It dealt with all sorts of issues, and when it finally got revived and moved to HBO Max, it dealt with even bigger issues like depression, PTSD, human trafficking, like the whole nine. But that show is so good, and I'm so sad that we're probably not going to get any more of it. I'm lucky we're lucky we got what we did.
Yeah.
You know why? Did I ever tell you why it was canceled?
Toys.
It's the toy sales. Same thing happened with Spectacular Spider-Man. They had to create character. The toys would come out before the show was done, so they had to like adapt the script to the toys that were coming out. It's crazy that stuff. Like it blows me away half the time. But let's see, we're moving into what else? Teen Titans. I am a huge fan of Teen Titans. Again, one of the most opening songs. I hate Teen Titans Go. People have defended Teen Titans Go for its meta nature and how it kind of pokes fun. Yeah. But I was in that demographic where I loved Teen Titans. It was a great show. It was adult. It dealt with adult things. And then they announced Teen Titans Go with the original cast coming back, and everybody's like, "Yes, they're making another. Like they're making it." And then it turned into what it was, and we're like, "Oh, this isn't what we wanted." But obviously, it was popular enough that they made a movie. I heard the movie's fantastic. I just can't bring myself to watch it.
But I wasn't a big fan of Teen Titans Go. So when they said, "Was it Teen Titans Go to the movies or whatever it's called?" I was like, no interest.
I will say there is a segment that I saw from Teen Titans Go where they're using like a building like as a mech where it's got like arms and legs, and they're fighting the competition, and it's all very very thinly veiled Marvel references, like the other building's a mech, and at one point like it has like Wolverine claws, it throws a shield, it's got spider webs, like it's pretty funny. And obviously like they are very good at poking fun at themselves. Like they do a bit where they all imitate the Joker at one point, and like all the bad guys fall for it until they get to Robin, who plays Jared Leto's Joker, and they're like, what is that? No, that is not the Joker. But so like they have some fun. Now let's jump into the more recent wave, and we have some of the more. We're in the time period of real adult animated shows, and I'm not talking about like Stripperella. Do you remember Stripperella? Yeah. Oh my God, what were they thinking with that one? I can't believe they got away with that, and it was so bad.
Yeah.
But
horrendous.
I say adult in terms of content, and Harley Quinn was the first one that really showed, hey, we can do adult cartoons and have them be fantastic and have them dropping F-bombs and being super violent and sexual and all these things, but also really good stories. Pretty sure, I think Harley Quinn's won a bunch of awards. It got renewed for another season, and they're still going. You haven't watched Harley Quinn, right?
I have not, no.
It's like your wheelhouse. It's like, that's your girl.
I'll have to watch it at some point.
I don't know. What are you doing with your life? God.
Nothing.
Well, get to work, sir. But we also have some of the other things, like Invincible is one of the big ones. I've only seen the first episode, and I've seen bits and pieces. And that's another show that I need to catch up on. But apparently it's fantastic. But also ultra violent. The first episode alone, like...
Oh, yeah.
Because you can get away with things like that.
It's literally The Boys animated before we got Diabolical.
Dude, Diabolical was way better than it should. And that's another genre that's really popular right now. And with season 2 coming out, which hopefully we'll be able to do an episode on that. What If is rolling around too, the new season. And Diabolical and all that. Again, the animated stuff is a great way to continue the medium when you're not doing the live action stuff. Like, by the way, unexpected news, I totally forgot. They dropped the new trailer for The Boys season 4. It's coming soon. Did you see the trailer?
Wait.
Did you see?
I did not. No.
Dude, you got to watch it. It looks really good. Yeah. I'm super excited for it because now it's amping up. But anyway, so shows like What If, Diabolical, all that stuff, they managed to take what we love about all this in continuity and show us other versions of it, which like Diabolical works. I haven't watched Diabolical since though. And same with What If. I haven't watched it since.
Yeah, both of those on the same. It was like one and done. No need to really watch either one again. There's like, I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I know there's probably certain episodes that I'm like, I would watch that one again, but not the whole series season for either one of them, though, you know?
No, not even a little bit. But we do have an honorable mention that Ronnie off air yelled at me for not mentioning, just so everybody knows, because this has been the episode of technical difficulties, and the fact that we got to 25 minutes, I'm shocked. But yeah, it's going to be a quick episode because for some reason, Ronnie and I can't Zoom properly. Everybody else that I do Zoom interviews with on MF Uncensored, not a problem. Just Ronnie. Stupid. But
it's because your internet stops working when we record.
Oh, that's the only reason.
Yeah.
But Ronnie wanted me to mention Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the animated series. That's another medium, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We got to do a whole episode on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at some point.
Yeah.
But it's wild because they've had so many shows, and some of them have been really good.
Yeah.
Like Mutant Mayhem came out, the new movie, and they say it's fantastic. And I still haven't sat down and watched it. But for you, though, what is your favorite animated show?
So my favorite show is probably the one we just mentioned, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that, between that and the movies, I think that might be my favorite. Do I think it's the best? No. I think it's like top 10 of all time. But my favorite animated show would probably be Batman.
For me, I am torn between the original Spider-Man, the animated series, and Spectacular Spider-Man. Those two, as a big Spider-Man fan, because I'm a big fan of all this. Like, we didn't even mention Superman, the animated series. Because when I think Superman animated, I really do think more Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. That's where he's had his better moments. Like, his ending monologue to Darkseid is before he, like, rocks his world. He's awesome. But, for me, like, I'm a Spider-Man guy with stuff like that, and they've always done such a great job. And obviously, Spider-Verse, we're looking at now, like, they're still nailing Spider-Man in an animated medium, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But really quick, just totally off topic, I just want to address this, speaking of which. For those of you guys who aren't aware, Death Battle, one of my favorite YouTube channels, just did an episode, their third Superman versus Goku episode. And for the third time in a row, spoiler alert, Superman won. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on it really quick before we end the episode, just for Ronnie's sake, so I don't have to talk to him about it later. But yeah, it is. Death Battle does a fantastic job with their research and their level of knowledge. And I remember when the first episode came out, the fans rioted at the idea of Superman beating Goku. Then the second episode came out, and the fans rioted again. But now the third episode came out, and the fans are a little bit more mellow, just because the third episode is also really well written with their actual fight. And Superman still reigns supreme, which is awesome. But yeah, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Again, a shorter episode. We are going to do a deep dive into Spider-Man the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series next week, followed by a part 2 where it's Spectacular Spider-Man and X-Men Evolution. But of course, we cannot end any episode without one of our favorite features, Fan Feedback Friday. So this week, I picked 6 superhero fight scenes. And your reaction was your vote. So we had Bucky and Captain America versus Iron Man, Batman versus Superman. These are all live action, by the way. Batman versus Superman from Batman versus Superman. Batman Nightmare fight scene from Batman versus Superman. Captain America versus Winter Soldier from Captain America the Winter Soldier. Captain America's elevator fight from Captain America the Winter Soldier. And the Batman warehouse fight from Batman versus Superman. So, ironically, Civil War and Batman vs. Superman came out at the same time. Like they're just really good in terms of movie fight scenes. Obviously, the best. So I'm going to go through the votes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes. Ironically enough, for the Batman warehouse fight scene, and that's the one that won. Our friend Alex he actually did a 2-parter, so I'm going to give it to him. He wrote 1A is Bucky and Cap versus Iron Man. And then 1B, Batman warehouse fight was everything I wanted in a Batman movie, especially after the Arkham games. Alex, totally agree. I got to get him on the show. He and I still need to have a chat. And then our friend John from Hey Pal, What's New? You guys all know our friends over at Hey Pal, What's New? If you guys don't, check them out. Make sure you let them know that we sent you. Hands down, the Cap elevator fight. The way they set it up with more guys getting on every floor and showing the one guy with the bead of sweat running down his temple sets it all up. And then Cap saying, before we get started, anyone want to get out, is brilliant. I do agree. It's such... But for me, the build-up is better than the actual fight.
Yes, I agree. Like if you're talking just pure fight scene, nothing else. My vote was for the warehouse. To me, I think the Batman fight scenes are always the best ones.
Oh God, yes. And say what you will about the DCEU, but oh my God, some of those fight scenes. I like Batman versus Superman, like their actual fight. It's just way too short, and I would have preferred going into that movie not knowing that they were going to fight. Like they could have done. Oh yeah, that's a whole other.
Batman and Superman is what it should have been called.
Yeah, or Batman / Superman. That's it.
Yeah,
or just call it World's Finest, but they wanted to mark it on the names. But anyway. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. If you guys want to participate in Fan Feedback Friday, it's super easy. All you have to do is just go to our website. Or not our website. Go to our Facebook page. Every Friday between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will see Fan Feedback Friday pops up. And if you guys want more of our content, that's when you go to the website where we have news, reverse. Stop making faces at me. You're ruining my spiel. Yeah, get out of the camera. Get out. He actually got off camera because he knew he was messing me up. We have news, reviews, articles, and more. Make sure you guys pick up that merch and support the show. And we're on every single social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. So make sure you guys check that out. A lot of new reels of Ronnie being stupid. So make sure you guys...
What else is new?
I know, right? But anyway, that is going to wrap us up for today. As always, I'm Paul.
I'm Ronnie.
And we'll be back in a flash.
See ya.